This is Eddie Bales, and I'm your host. And this is episode 229, and I'm actually 230. And I'm excited because we have someone. This is only our second international speaker that we have, and this is the first time in Australia. So, welcome to the show, Mr. Tristan Wright.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm amazed I'm only the second international speaker. So yeah, really proud to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Our other speaker was from London, and so you being in Australia is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've got such an amazing background and a great story, and tell us, a little bit of your journey. And the title of this episode is basically how to win when setbacks happen. So in order for a setback to happen, you have to be winning at some point, and then the setback happens. So let's back us back to when you were actually winning and how that all started.
That's it. Yeah. So my background, I studied engineering. I was a mechanical engineer, industrial designer, and I worked in that space for a little bit. And in my early 20s, I was riding my bike with friends, and I saw an opportunity to get into cycling clothing because the friends wanted some cycling clothing, and I thought there's no one really good in Australia manufacturing at good quality, good price, good customer service. So I'm going to try and do this myself. So I set up a custom sportswear business, and this was around 2010 that I set this business up, and there wasn't a lot of competition at the time. So I was in my mid-20s, early to mid-20s, and the business was able to grow relatively easy in the early days. Yes, I put a lot of work into it. I was running my day job and coming home and then working from the kitchen table every single night until 10, 11 o'clock at night, midnight. I was able to grow it to I think I was doing 300 grand, 350 grand in the business before I went full time on it, and took it up to $1 million business when I was in my mid-20s. And so naturally, that business had grown relatively quickly. I had an ego, and I was very arrogant. So I hadn't made any mistakes up until then, and I'd led a blessed life and a charmed life. And then within a 6-month period, the Aussie dollar tanked against the US dollar. So we were buying everything in US dollars and selling in Australian dollars. And when that happened, we lost 25% of our margin overnight. Now, that alone would have been okay. But at a very similar time, my wife at the time came to me and said, Tristan, our marriage is over. So I had two major issues happen in my life, all within a 6-month period. And I'd gone from winning at everything to having two big hurdles. And at the time, I had no idea what to do. So I just stuck my head in the sand and let it get worse.
Yeah, it's interesting because, on the road of entrepreneurship, there's always going to be some roadblocks. And not to think that is naive. And so we should be prepared when the roadblocks come. And this is a great way for entrepreneurs who are looking at this to get prepared ahead of time. So I appreciate having this conversation with you.
I definitely wasn't prepared at the time because I was young and naive. So I thought I'm just good at this. I'm better than everyone else. And then all of a sudden I was 200 grand in debt, and I'd lost my marriage. So I had to learn it the hard way.
About that is when you start losing after you've already won, is it messes with you mentally because you start to think, am I good enough, or why is this happening to me, or can I ever get out of this and get back to or even further than where I was? So tell us about like where you were mentally.
It took me a long time to get back to where I was, good 12, 18 months. But I remember days where I just didn't want to leave the house. I didn't want to leave the bedroom. I didn't want to leave the couch. And it was just too hard, basically. So I remember it was an effort for me to go for a walk around the block. So just because of all of these issues that had all of what I saw as big issues at the time, and I was self-perpetuating and catastrophizing those issues and making them worse than what they were. So because I was just focusing purely on the issues, my mental health and my mindset just deteriorated and spiraled. So it definitely wasn't a fun time.
Yeah, I can imagine. And what I found is that life is all about defining moments. And I don't know if you can remember a defining moment where you feel like you turned the corner and you were on a good path, and what that defining moment was, if you can remember.
Well, it got to the point where for a period of time I was comfortable being uncomfortable. And then I thought, okay, I've got to make a change in life. I can either close the business down and go back to a day job and spend years paying back the debt, or I can get over myself and get over my ego and arrogance and go and get support and guidance and help and change the way I look at things and change the way I view business and the way I view life and fast track the improvements in my business and in my life and realize that I don't know everything. So I thought 20 years to pay back that debt, or get over my ego and get over my arrogance and potentially pay it back within 2 or 3 years. The choice was obvious. So I thought, all right, I've got to get over myself and talk to others and get support and guidance from others and start learning again.
Wow, good stuff. Well, that's exciting that you were able to get through that hurdle and now be here to even talk about it. So tell us, how things are now in the business and things.
So I was at that bottom where I was 200 grand in debt, had no idea how to pay it back, and I was just able to pay staff. And now what I was able to do was go and speak to others, go and learn from others, read books, talk to people who'd been there, done that. I turned that business around with support from those people and put it into a position that I was able to sell it because it was profitable again. It was back profitable 7-figure business that my sales manager wanted to buy the business from me. So I was able to sell it. And after selling it, I'd paid off that debt and made a bit of money. From there, I was like, okay, cool. I've sold the business. I've been on this journey, but what's next for me? I got to the next stage in life. I was like, I'm a tiny bit lost again. So I've achieved all this. I've had the highs, the lows, and the highs again of business. Where do I fit in the world? And it was when I was over in Europe, in Croatia, with Erin, my partner. We were talking one day about what I've enjoyed doing in life and what I'm good at. And we looked at back when I was a kid, I was always a leader. I was always bringing people along on the journey with me. I was always wanting to better people and help people. And then we thought, hey, I've got experience in business. Why don't I use my skills and experience and knowledge that I've got in business and what I'm passionate about, being a leader and helping and bringing people along the journey and bettering them, bringing them together and get into the business coaching and consulting space. And that's what allowed me to get into building Evolve to Grow. So I came back from Croatia and set up Evolve to Grow, where I'm now guiding, mentoring, and helping other business owners.
That's awesome. And I've been in that same place where it's like you have the success, you're at the mountaintop, you fall down, you get back up to the mountaintop, and now it's like, okay, something's a little different now. I want to do something else. I want not something else, but you just feel like there's more that you can accomplish, if that makes sense. So
Yes.
I know one of the things that you're doing in your company is actually helping business owners who feel like they're like stuck or feel like they're like they're working their business all the time and they don't have any freedom. And this podcast is all about freedom. So I love to have you talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, my purpose in business or Evolve to Grow is to help business owners run a profitable business without their daily input. And if they don't have daily input into their business, they're going to have freedom to pick and choose what they want to do with their life. So one of the big things I say to my clients is that you need to F up and F up fast. You need to learn, make mistakes, and learn from those mistakes. You're never going to be perfect, but you have to be willing to change and adapt and move forward.
Yeah, one of the things that I talk about on this podcast a lot is the cash flow quadrant, if you're familiar with Robert Kiyosaki.
Yes.
And a lot of business owners go from that employee quadrant to the self-employed, and they find themselves stuck. So one of the
Correct.
things that I teach people a lot is how to get to the other side, where you're a big business owner and you have scales and you have systems in place. So now you can have your money working for you, your business working for you, instead of being a slave to your business. So anything else you want to elaborate as it relates to that?
Yeah, one of the big things is what's got you to where you are today, your skill set, your mindset that's got you to, let's say, a $500,000 business isn't necessarily the skill set and mindset that will get you to a $3 million business. And then again, for a $5 million business and a $10 million business. So just because you're really good at getting your business to 500,000 or 3 million or 5 million doesn't mean you can get it to the next level with your current skill set. You've got to look at things differently. You've got to charge differently. You've got to have different clients. You've got to have different staff. So it's a continual learning journey, and realizing that what's got you to where you are today is not going to get you to where you want to be tomorrow.
Yeah, you can't solve today's problems with yesterday's mindset. You got to get a new mindset. Everything has to change in order to be big. You got to be bigger than the challenges that we're in. And a lot of times people try to stay the same and try to solve that same problem with the same challenges that they have. So
You
yeah,
can refine and optimize your business, but you're not going to have the growth that you want, and you're not going to get the freedom that you desire if you stay mentally at that same level.
for sure, for sure, for sure. Well, you're doing some incredible things, and your story is phenomenal. I love it. And what keeps you inspired these days? Like what inspires you to keep going?
But for me, it's the biggest thing for me is the ability to spend time with my family and my friends. I've got a 3-year-old son, and I want to have the freedom to, if I want to finish work at 3 o'clock and go and pick Emma up from childcare, I can do that and know that my business is going to operate. So I've got my goals in that aspect are relatively simple. I just want to spend time with my friends and family and be present with them. And also the time that I spend with my clients and people around me have a net positive impact on them, so that they can be present with the ones that mean the most to them. So it doesn't matter if you earn $10 million or $2 million or $200,000. It's about being able to be present and happy with the ones that mean the most to you, and not be constantly thinking about the way your business is operating and will it be able to pay the bills next week. So that's what inspires me, to be able to help set up your business in a way that you as a business owner can be present with the people that mean the most to you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one of the big things we talk about on this podcast is, we want freedom. Some people have the money and not the time. Other people have the time and not the money. Very few people have both.
Correct. Yeah. And it's okay to double down and get the money, but then you've got to be able to take a step back, take your head out of the weeds and analyze, is it now time to shift focus and optimize the business and pull myself out of the business? Or why do I need to be greedy to keep making all this money? A lot of the time, people that have got the money have got this ego or this arrogance, and they don't realize it, that it's only them that can do the work. 90% of the time, someone else can do it better than you and faster than you. It's just because you don't know how to teach or train this other person or how to let go of it, that they can't do it.
I find that to be a lot of a problem with a lot of entrepreneurs, because they know how to do it, but they don't know how to teach it. And then the next level that I tell people is you got to teach, right? Where you can teach other people how to teach other people. That's where you really can get it to a higher level, because now you have the managers and supervisors in place to really operate everything without you.
That's it. That's it. So, and it also comes back to, what do you actually want out of the business? Do you want to teach, or do you want to just have that? Do you want to just have 2 layers of management? So
Right.
It depends on what you want out of it, and what your life aspirations are.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think it's important that, like you said, the freedom is the most important thing, because what good is it for us to succeed on one side of life, but to be failing on the other side when it relates to your family, your relationship, your spiritual life, and things like that? Yeah,
That's it. Like there's a saying, would you rather live in a mansion with no one in it, or a shack on the beach with your nearest and dearest? I choose the shack on the beach with my nearest and dearest because I'm not going to be lonely. So
absolutely. And in some ways, you're rich because you have the relationships and you have the happiness there, even if you may not have the massive success of living in a mansion and things like that. So
that's it. We've got to think our business isn't our identity. So many people, so many business owners treat their business as their identity and can't separate their business identity from their personal identity. We've got to realize that business is a tool for life, and our identity, our business identity, and our personal identity are separate.
that's so good. And I find myself having that challenge sometimes, because if my business is failing sometimes, or not, it's not failing, but if it's not where I want it to be, it's like I'm having an attack in my mind on me and my psyche, so to speak.
Yeah. Doesn't mean
And
you're a failure. It just means that the business isn't working at the moment.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, well, hey, listen, this has been a great episode, and I love for people to be able to follow you and connect with you and see what else you got going on. So, how can our viewers and our audience, get in contact with you?
Probably the easiest way is just to search Tristan Wright, Evolve to Grow, and then you'll find my website, LinkedIn, Facebook. So I'm on all the social channels. And if you want to email me directly, it's just tristan@evolvetogrow.com.au.
Absolutely. And I'll also put that in the show notes so that people can just click on it and it'll take you right there. So it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. My first guest from Australia. Super excited. And hey, we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, Eddie.